The sacred is revealed in the ordinary. There is a beauty in this. But how do we discover the mystery of the sacred in our seemingly mundane existence? Welcome to Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's join our hosts, Katie McAllister and Tony Pickler, as they explore the lives of people, organizations, and resources that will help us delve into the sacredness of the ordinary.
Today we have a very special guest, Steve Meyer. Tony, why don't you introduce us, Steve, because I think you know this guy.
I sure will, Katie. Thanks. Yes, I got an old friend, and I'll just emphasize the old. Steve Meyer is a friend of mine from high school days. He is currently
1950s, right? 50s?
Well, not quite that old, but currently employed down at the Karma Group doing marketing work. He's a deacon at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Green Bay. And we go way back, but we have been involved lately over the last 20 years or more in doing some outreach ministries through Whatsoever You Do Incorporated. So, Steve, just to get us started, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, fill in all of the gaps from what I just said.
Well, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for feigning interest in my story, which is more gaps than substance.
That's what we get paid
how
for.
We can fill them in, to be honest. But it's been a wonderful journey. As you mentioned, we met way back in high school. And have done some good stuff together. So
Absolutely.
It's been a journey.
Absolutely. So you're married?
I'm
3 boys?
I'm married. Michelle and I have been married for 35 years. We have 3 adult sons. One that moved back to Green Bay with his wife and now has a child, after swearing he would never live in Green Bay again. So
that's what they all say, and then they come home.
But, and one's in Madison, one's out in Boulder.
If I remember right, you have a doctor, a rocket scientist, and a lawyer.
It's like I do. One went into medicine, and one's into astronautical engineering, and the third's in law school.
I'm glad they took on the genes of their mom.
Indeed, if you ask my boys where they get their intelligence, they always say we got it from dad because mom still has all of hers.
Excellent. Well, we are exploring this whole notion of finding the sacred in the ordinary, and I know that you like to hike. I know you like to backpack, to enjoy nature in many ways. How'd you get started in that? What was the beginning of the enjoyment?
It's not the sort of thing that you take on without someone introducing you to it, right? So my brother-in-law, Don Berger, who I affectionately refer to as Wild Man Don, and I write stories about him in some of my books. But Wild Man Don grew up in the West, and it was part of his culture. And a number of years ago, he wanted to go, and he needed someone to go with him because you can't go alone. So he asked me, and I thought that sounds like a kick, right? So I went and found an awakening that hadn't been part of my experience before.
Can you dig into that a little bit? The awakening. What do you mean by that?
There's a reason why, in our scriptures, every time Jesus wanted to get close to not just to God, but to that oneness and unity with God, he went to nature, right? Whether it was the desert or the mountains, or that's where he went, because if you want to know a creator, you have to go to the creation, right? You can't. If you want to know Mozart, you have to not just listen to the music. Enter the music. If you want to know Picasso, you have to enter the art, and so I think we don't realize that, right? You can read it in theory, but until you go do it, you don't know what it means to be wet until you're in the water, right? You don't know what it means to love until you're in love. and you don't know what it means to really be one with the Creator until you enter into and become one with the creation.
Is there a moment, a time, an awakening that most stands out to you on a hike or in a time backpacking?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one single moment. There are several, right, of clarity. But I remember once on top of a mountain in Wyoming, in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming. We were in the Cloud Peak Wilderness. Cloud Peak is it's about 12,500 feet or so, roughly, and we were we were above tree line when when the sun set. We were camping. We were camping probably at about 11,000 feet, maybe a little less, and and we would lay down at on our back, the wild man Don and I, and looked up at the sky, right, and because we're so close to the top of a mountain, and we're above tree line, there's no horizon, and it was darker than any darkness I've ever seen before, right, and it was a clear night, and there's no horizon, so in every direction you look, you only saw sky. With the earth on your back and the sky in your face, and you saw the vastness and the wonder of the cosmos and the universe, deep layers that you don't normally get a chance to see. Because keep in mind also at that altitude, the air is thin, so you have a lot more light coming through, and it's just spectacular. But in that moment, I had this realization that I was simultaneously feeling super, super small and insignificant. A speck of nothing on a dirt ball in the universe, right? And so insignificant, but simultaneously feeling that I was one and unified with something amazing, remarkable, infinite, great. So to feel part of something so amazing and encompassing, but also feel so individually small and insignificant at the same time was just a remarkable feeling of wholeness and unity and oneness between the heaven and the earth, and to just be part of all of it at one time.
How do you not just view what you're viewing, laying on your back, looking at the stars and the moon, and how do you move beyond that? That's just stars, and that's just science. That's just that there's. How do you move from that to there's something sacred about this?
How do you enter into that sacredness?
Right. Life is really small when you live it between your ears. Right. I mean, it really is. If the sum total of your existence is defined by what you process in the space inside your own skull, it's really small. So you have to realize that you have to decide, I think, and it's not an intellectual decision. It's a soulful decision. It's a prayerful decision, if you will. But you have to make a decision internally that you are not going to live from the outside in. Meaning, I'm not going to just live in my head and process what's going on outside of me and let it come at me and enter me. I'm going to live from the inside out. I'm going to live from my heart and my soul and open myself up to the flow of life, of love, of God, of energy, of the Alpha and the Omega, all of everything. I'm going to let it all flow to me, through me, and beyond me. And I'm going to enter that flow that actually is a God experience. And that's not going to happen in your head. That's going to happen through a lifetime of spiritual pilgrimage that goes beyond the boundaries of the self.
And that's where I wanted to go next. So you obviously, the first time you had this awakening or this sense of the sacred in the hiking, in the backpacking, it probably, I'm guessing that now has been a journey from that first kind of those moments to where you are now. How many years later? Can you talk about that, the development, the process of growing in depth of your awareness of the sacred?
It's really important to me, that I recognize for myself, at least in my own spirituality, the need to find the ordinary, or find the extraordinary in the ordinary, right? And because we look around, we look at life, and we see the dirt, and we just, it's so ordinary because we're so used to it, but it's all miracle, right? It's all extraordinary. It's amazing when you really get into it and look at it, and once you start to see something that way, you want to see everything that way. So you keep going back to it again and again, and looking for it. In all honesty, how much of that spiritual encounter and experience is the result of wandering in deserts and mountains, as I'm apt to do, and how much of it is just the result of losing my hair and graying my beard, and getting older. I'm not sure you can separate the two, because age is ultimately the result of life experience. And what is the life experience that I've brought? But all of it has contributed to this spirituality that says either nothing is sacred or everything is sacred. And for me, everything is sacred. And what a gift it is to be able to encounter every moment of every day, every blade of grass, and every spoken word as an opportunity to encounter the sacred expression of this creator.
Do you have any tips for...
Yeah,
Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah. Well, Tony's kind of hogging the place here. Do you have any suggestions of how our listeners could kind of start looking for the sacred when they're out for a walk or when they're hiking? Or
I think it really starts with your mindset, or what Saint Benedict called listening with the ear of your heart. Right. Again, we have to get out of our own heads. There's so much stirring and whirling up there all the time, and we have to. That's one of the things that walking does well, right? That's why so many good meditations are walking meditations, because the process of walking and the rhythm and the how it calms the heart and quiets the mind, stills the soul, so that we can be open to it. And it really starts, I think, with that openness to say, I'm not coming to this encounter with answers. I'm not coming with questions. I'm just coming with openness to let the world speak to me, and to look to look deep, right? I mean, it's we all have the experience of looking up at the stars and being awed. We look at a sunset and we're awed. But when you look at a maple seed, one of those little helicopters that's found there, when you pick it up, are you awed? When you go out and mow the lawn, are you awed? It's the same creation. It's every bit as remarkable, but you have to decide that I'm going to look for the depth. I'm going to look for the creator in the creation, and look at it. So the things we see every day, we'll look at flowers in a garden and say, they're beautiful, and they are. And we'll look at bees dancing on them and think, isn't that remarkable? And it is, but that doesn't make it a spiritual encounter yet. Mm-hmm. We have to quiet our minds and still our hearts and look upon it, and look for the miracle of the creator in it. I mean, it's like if you race through an art museum and you look at the pictures, you might as well, be flipping through the internet, right? Mm-hmm. You have to stand back and enter the photo and look at the brush strokes and imagine the artist's hand moving and enter. And the same thing is true when you walk in the woods. It's a different experience when you just slow down and I like to say walk with the woods, not walk in the woods.
Reminds me of that, from the scriptures, unless we become like little children. It sounds to me like when you're talking about the helicopters from the maple leaf or the flower or the painting, unless we can kind of get back into that childlike wonder, we're probably not going to hit it.
Well, that's very true, right? I mean, there is that remarkable experience that children have and that they give us. And my son asked me one day, when do you get old? and I thought about that, and my response to him was, I think you're old when nothing is new anymore, right? When you're a child and the first snowfall of winter is new, it's remarkable, and the delight and the joy and the miracle of that, and how you're so enamored with a snowflake and all the stuff that kids get so excited about because it's new. And as we gain life experience, as we age, you get older, we let it all become ordinary. We stop seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. And so when nothing is new anymore, I think is when you're old. And so the mindset of the child, to be childlike, really calls us to look at everything, the cube of ice in the glass, and see it as new. How can we look at it new?
One of the reasons we wanted you on this podcast as our first guest is, well, because you're Steve Meyer. But secondly, we're entering the season of fall. Mm-hmm. And with the changing of the leaves and the crispness of the air and just some of the beauties of fall, we thought this would be a timely podcast. So as you enter into fall, is there something that you look forward to in this season?
This is my season, right? My wife loves the hot days of summer, and she loves hiking in the deserts because it's 90 degrees in the beating sun, and but I love fall. I love all of it. I love the change of the seasons. But I'm reminded of the words of Rumi every fall, right? To be like the trees and let the dead leaves drop. So fall is for me a great time to, even as the world gets active and the kids are back in school and there's football games everywhere and we enjoy that camaraderie. It's a good time to let go of everything that doesn't matter, right? Relationships matter, love matters, joy matters, but there's so much stuff that we cling to that doesn't. So for me, the enter of fall is season of fall, whether it's the physical season or the metaphysical season, the season of your life we call autumn, which I suppose I'm in, is an opportunity to let go of all this stuff we don't need anymore. Be like the trees and let the dead leaves drop.
So any last words of wisdom for how we find the sacred in the ordinary and in the ordinariness of hiking and backpacking?
Yeah, I think that one of the greatest disservices we've done to Western Christian spirituality is we've compartmentalized the Creator, our God, from the creation, our earth, our life. We've separated them, and we almost encounter them distinctly. We go to places like churches to encounter God, which is fine, but we sort of like set apart time and space for that instead of allowing that to infuse our entire life experience all the way through, and to say that we should not be separating the Creator from the act of creating or from the creation, and that it's all one expression through which we enter into that community or that holy communion even with the Creator, and and do that. So much of, I think, a really good, healthy spiritual practice is to look for the reunification of our lives. How do I decompartmentalize this stuff? How do I create that unity, that wholeness, that oneness, that communion with Creator, creation, with and certainly myself as part of that creation, part of that expression of the Creator, and to realize that prayer is not necessarily something you do. It's a disposition with which you live, right? It's a mindset with which you walk through life, that prayerful presence and awareness of how extraordinary the ordinary really is.
Well, Steve, thanks for being with us today. You will forever hold the distinction of being our first guest on Reveal, this podcast.
This may be the last episode.
We thank you.
If anyone's left listening, if they haven't tuned out and shut this off, if you don't get hate mail, it's a success.
Well, we thank you for being a guest on Reveal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to Revealed. And we just wish until you join us again that you continue looking for God, how he reveals himself, the sacred in the ordinary.
This has been Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin.